What he like? Well, you messing with my fourth Sunday communion. You got some too. Pastor Jeff.
How are you, sir?
Welcome back to Sunday night service.
Listen, we're dealing with technical difficulties behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
Now I'm half dead. I feel like I ran a marathon.
Oh, listen. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Religiously Incorrect Podcast. I'm Pastor Todd, and I'm with my main man, Pastor Jeff Stanford.
Blessings be upon you all. I hope you all had a great Sunday. Pentecost Sunday.
Pentecost Sunday.
Y'all got it in. I hope y'all got a shout. Y'all got a shout in for me. A little Holy Ghost.
It was too hot to shout. It was too hot to shout, man. It was too hot for shouting.
Absolutely.
Stay happy in your seat. That's what I said today.
Yes, sir. Do a real slow clap.
Right. a halfway joint. Man, it's been some kind of week. It's been a weird week in a lot of ways. I got a surprise opening subject for you, Pastor Jeff.
Okay.
Lady Dela Cruz, Jameson, Dave, I got a surprise opening subject for Pastor Jeff. We usually don't do this. We usually plot out our opening.
Yeah, I'm sort of scared. Let's go.
Here's the opening subject, Pastor Jeff. Are you and I the only people on the planet who did not get a PPP loan?
What's that? What's that?
One of them COVID relief
person. People, person, places, and things.
Person, places. I don't know what to think about the situation because the Jeff. It sounds like a great deal of our brothers and sisters
manufactured.
There's a lot of businesses out there I didn't know existed. I
mean, it's about 30 lawn businesses. 5 Brands is not the only boutique in Warren. Fernando about to go out of business because a million other ones.
Oh yeah. I saw one. I saw one post on Facebook lately that said, "I heard about this new soul food restaurant in Warren, and it was somebody's apartment building."
I mean, half these people got lawn businesses. Ain't even got a weed whacker one.
Nothing.
Weed whacker one.
I mean, let's be very clear here, Jeff. You and I are not haters. You know, I'm not hating, but I will say I'm a little concerned.
Well, I mean, it's cause to be concerned because the fact of the matter is, whether they believe it or not, this money is going to have to be paid back. They're going to want this money back, especially when they find out that your business is artificial.
Let me say this, Jeff. I have a certain, not quite conspiracy theorist perspective about these types of things, but I will say that whenever anything is too easy for Black people to do,
exactly,
it has to already be tracked, and in some way or another, even if it's not everybody, be a trap for some people. So when you talk about they might find out you don't really have the business, which again, I'm not hating. Hustle on, hustler, hustle on. But they already know you don't have a business. They knew the day you put the paperwork in. And so my concern is it could create unnecessary pain and suffering. And that while not everybody might not, get tracked or tracked down, and some might be more savvy than others. And by the way, more power to you. So many people might be drawn into what they might not be able to handle or smart enough to do. And I know a lot of us will say, well, too bad, so sad. You should have been smarter like I was. But I don't think you can deny that when something becomes a rush or a wave and a lot of people get pulled in the wrong direction, that could be a problem. My man Lamont wants us to pray for him to get a PPP. You better get a PPP, a BBB, a bigger, better blessing. I said, I'm a preach. You need a BBB.
Is that Lamont Josie?
No, this is Lamont Bryant. This is one of our resident comedians and my man.
I know Lamont, yeah. And you know what? And it's almost like these, for a while there, they had these insurance scams. And I mean, they was getting literally $15,000, $20,000 on these insurance scams. And I mean, sooner or later, you're going to file your taxes and you really going to need them.
Well, right. And what about the reasoning that, there are a lot of businesses let's just be honest. The white man does this, gets over. Why not get my piece? They take so much from us. You know, what would you say to that? Because I feel it to a certain point, because this is a corrupt system. There's a lot of exploitation. We often do not tap into things that we could, because we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the wherewithal. People do all sorts of, some legal, some not so legal, different tactics and strategies.
What I would say to it is he white. Therein lies the difference. He probably got a lawyer on standby, and you gonna come up there with butt button boo boo talking about.
Why is it always butt button boo boo? You need some new ghetto friends. It's always mine is Pookie and Ray Ray. So I have Pookie and Ray Ray. Jeff has butt button boo boo.
Yeah, you gonna come to court? He talking about I do apologize. I do apologize, Mr. Court Officer man.
Hey, he gonna have on a Falcone suit.
It's gonna be pink with pinstripes,
7 buttons, talking about I am my own legal representation. But let me be honest about this. The image of young Black prosperity and wealth that even appears to be under the table often sets off alarms, even when they're doing the same thing others do, like you said. And sometimes it's not even race, it's class. And they don't always like to see what they feel are lower class people getting the come up. And then some are flashier than others, instantly going out and making a big show of it. People on Falcone used to be popping. You are absolutely correct. I know a few people who still wear them and preaching them, by the way. You'll sweat out a Falcone suit until the sleeve falls off. But I just think that it's always a danger zone. And when I say concern, I'm always genuinely concerned for my people. Like, I understand streets are the streets, life is life. But when you see that there could be a cliff at the end of it, you kind of want to say, I wish y'all would slow up, at least be a little smart about what you do.
And that's the one thing that really concerns me, because half of them going to get a car from Sun Auto Sales.
I should have opened up, bro. We should have opened up an auto lot before this started.
I mean, I'm like, whenever you see 2017 Benz for $5,200,
you need to walk the other way.
And only thing it say on the front of it is clean. Clean.
It might not have an engine, but it's clean.
What's a clean mean?
Hey, only people buying those cars are dope boys and jack leg preachers. Okay, so would you accept tithes from a member who went out and got a PPP loan illegitimately, and you knew it? And they say, yo, I got my 20, I'm breaking the church off too.
I mean,
I was like a yes to me.
Right? I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, it ain't. Well, I guess it is receiving stolen goods. I don't know. I mean, if they tell me, I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk to them about why are they taking a loan. If they talk to me about it.
If they talk to you about it, but will you turn down that money though?
You know what? I'm gonna talk to the trustees. I'm gonna say,
you gonna put it in the hands of the deacon board,
so I ain't got to deal with it.
Well, I'll tell you this. We, on occasion, we get some smelly money at the church, and we've never returned the sender. It's the first fruits. It's the fruit of the earth. It's the fruit of the earth. It came from God's earth.
It has to be done. Listen, we got a couple minutes. I just want to ask you something real quick.
Let's get it.
Surprise. And I want to take a quick turn because this is very serious.
Okay.
These murders in Youngstown.
Let's talk about it, Jeff. Talk to your city, man.
These murders in Youngstown, and I'm a Youngstown native. I love my Youngstown peeps, but and I hate to be the one, because I'm so sick of we got to put down the guns. We need another prayer visual, this and that. We know all this. First question I want to have to ask to you is, what do they think? Retaliation breeds retaliation. This becomes a cyclical cycle that does not stop. It has to stop somewhere. Something has to happen, and I'm just to the point of where.
What though? What?
I don't. I mean, we've done so much. And I mean, so many things have been tried, so many things have been done, so many prayers have been made, so many vigils have been done. I mean, honestly, I don't have the answer.
Okay, so I'll be honest, like this is as unpopular as it gets, especially coming off the era that we've been in. But when you got people like our former president saying we need to bring in the National Guard to some of our cities and just stake these cats out, is that really the only thing that would calm some of this down and just create an occupation in these spots and just take over a whole section of the city? And I mean, what else actually
Well, I
works?
mean, one thing
We got grieving mothers, we got preachers, we got people who've been shot out of prison, you got survivors, everybody's giving testimony. We don't even listen to ourselves, man.
Right. One thing that can be done is stop talking about you ain't no snitch. That's one thing that can be done. And I'm
you ain't no snitch though. The businessman ain't no snitch. The politician ain't no snitch. The policeman ain't no snitch. And I know quite a few preachers that won't snitch on each other.
While we ain't snitching, somebody's dying.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, I think this has been accepted as a reality of life. And so I think we're trying to change the minds. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but this is religiously incorrect. And I'll make it short. Maybe another time we can talk about violence in our streets. But I will say this: at a certain point, you don't even are we beyond the possibility of a mentality change? And do you just need to make more of a military move? Because if you can't stop the attitudes that create it, then you have to suppress the actions that are happening one way or another.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I just believe that there are a lot of these, and it might be the smaller ones, but a lot of these smaller houses, we know where they're at. We know what's going on. You can't tell me that cars coming in and out all times of night. You know what's going on there.
I made those calls. They raid and they're back in a month.
That's true.
It's like playing whack-a-mole, man. You know, and so what I'm saying is we've prayed, we've cried, we've screamed at each other, you know, forums. And by the way, keep having them, keep having forums, keep dialogue and keep talking. Do the basketball league. Kudos to the basketball league in Youngstown.
Right.
Big shout out to Respect Basketball League and anybody else doing any intervention. But at the end of the day, we are seeing the same continuance of violence. And I start to wonder, because I'm a practical type of preacher, if you just don't need to do more than attempt to modify attitude and behavior and just shut the whole doggone thing down. Because I mean, what else can be done? What else can be done? Let's be honest. I'm the type to say, if nothing else has worked, you got to go to a whole new approach. Period. Point blank. Otherwise, you just bang your head against the wall. Big prayers for Youngstown.
Please,
this is tragic, man. These shootings and these clubs, and you know, just this, like you said, retaliation, cycles of violence. Sometimes you have families getting hit 3 and 4 times, multiple children of the same mother or siblings and family members and cousins. In Warren, we had a cousin kill his own cousin. I don't know if they knew they were cousins or what, but you know, a fight broke out. Now one's going to jail and one's dead. So
my heart goes out to the Hill family. Lost Eugene, and you know, they lost this the third brother they've lost. Sister D was phenomenal piano player at Beulah Baptist for the 4.5 years I was there. You know, just my heart goes out to that family and all the rest of the families who've lost somebody. Listen, when you're not just killing that person, that's somebody's brother, mother,
on the whole family,
father. You know, some you know, it's painful, man. It's painful.
It's ugly, and we continue to pray because we do believe that prayer can bring comfort and positivity to people's lives. But I do not pretend, even as a pastor, that prayer, because I'll be honest, that's a whole other subject, because I didn't watch prayer vigils go down in the city and literally the next day make you start to wonder. That'd be a real episode of Religiously Incorrect.
That's real.
We're gonna have a subject. Mark this down, Mike. Prayer changes things? ? Here's
or
nah. Let's hit our sponsors right quick. I want you all to support our sponsors, the Phillips Care family of businesses. You know, I love Black-owned businesses, and the Phillips family is a Black-owned conglomerate in the Mahoning Valley. Beginning with Phillips Care Cleaning Service, they do residential and commercial cleaning. floor cleaning, basic cleaning, deep cleaning, carpet, upholstery, wood floor, move in, move out, serving Trumbull and Mahoning surrounding areas. Call my man Fernando. Don't waste your time. Let us do it. I don't like that phrase as much as I love the preacher phrase. We clean up the mess that causes you stress.
Yes,
I love
sir.
that one. That's much more poetic and Jesse Jackson-ish. Contact my man Fernando at 330-219-7916. And while you're at it, check out the Fernando's other business, Phillips Care Lawn Services, because they do it all. If they got a truck, they gonna do just about anything. So they do lawn sprig cleaning, mulching and trimming and edging and lawn mowing starting at $30 a yard. Trumbull and Mahoning and surrounding areas as well. You can look them up on Facebook at Phillips Care LLC, or again, call 330-219-7916. I can vouch for the wonderful services they do for us with Second Baptist Church, the Focus Building, took care of some things at the house. Support our sponsors, because our sponsors are helping to make this show possible.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead. What you got?
Before we bring in our guests, last week we had various technical difficulties. If it does go out, please tune in to YouTube. Please just go over to YouTube. We're still on YouTube. Check us out, and you can follow us over there. Amen.
Yeah, Facebook be bugging. I think Mark Zuckerberg's mad about them Israel comments I made last week. And I need to stop saying that word. So I
don't even know why you just said it again.
He was not happy. Hey, Mike contends that we went out as soon as I made my comment about the conflict. So this will forever be known as the region that shall not be named. I'm religiously incorrect. Hey, our guest tonight, I know we kept you waiting, but we have some of the best people that Trumbull, Mahoning County and the area have to offer. These entrepreneurs have been making a wonderful impact in our city for decades. This brother is a friend of not only our families, but just about every family in the area, because he is there for our families when we are in need, in particular in grief. I want everybody in the Trumbull, Mahoning County, religiously incorrect, worldwide, national audience to welcome Mr. Sterling Williams and his son, Tyler Williams, the Sterling McCullough Williams Funeral Home. And Tyler has like 9,000 businesses. So how y'all doing tonight?
And none of them I filed PPPs for.
You didn't file no PPP for Hey, tonight's episode is called Who Got the Body?
Who got the body?
Who got the body? That's the I never knew I'd be asked that question so many times when I became a pastor. Would you believe Jimmy Ray died? Who got the body?
Sadly, we say the same thing. we think we know these people,
Yeah. So
they provide otherwise.
I want you to tell us, and I'll start with Dad, because I honor age and wisdom. Mr. Williams, I already know you quite well, but introduce yourself to our audience. Talk a little bit about your upbringing, your career. I know your father began the business and you walked in his shadow and the footsteps and took over. Talk to us about your journey with the Sterling McCullough Williams Funeral Home.
Well, my journey started a long time ago. My dad believed in hard work and labor. So he had us working in the funeral home since we were old enough to tie our shoes. So I've been helping him through the years. I'm a graduate of Miami University, class of 1977.
All right.
I ran high school in Youngstown in 1973. I have a master's degree from Kent State University in 1980, and also got my funeral director's license in 1980 as well. So I've been a licensed funeral director since then. Funeral home actually started in 1952 under my dad in Youngstown. We actually started the Warren office in 1976. Thanksgiving Day. And so we've been in Warren ever since. I actually moved to Warren in 1977.
Okay. That is awesome. And Tyler, tell us about your role in coming up with your dad. Talk about what you do and how you help. I know you help with that, but you also got some endeavors of your own.
Yeah, so obviously similar to his story, similar to mine. I was born into the funeral home. I don't know if I had a crib or a casket growing up. So growing up, I had the opportunity really to be around the space, as well as, obviously be honed into a business mindset. professional mindsets and a service mindset. So that's always been a blessing to me coming up and having that opportunity. I also do other ventures as well, and that's really for peace of mind, as well as to continually serve the community and in avenues that might be a little more lightning and joyful than funerals per se, but nonetheless, all of what we do is for service of others, for the care of others and concern. So that was really my main reason to coming back home. I wanted to serve the area. There's money and opportunity everywhere, but the people you care about, the community you care about, is only really exists one place, and that's Warren, Ohio for me. And that's really I put in front of any other opportunity that existed, and loving the opportunity to be with my dad here.
Now, when you say there's money and opportunity everywhere, it's kind of a dichotomy when it comes to y'all business, because I know there are a lot of people who want to have this parade-like funeral and got McDonald's money. They want to have. They want to have the Cadillac casket, and they got Geo Metro money.
Geo Metro wallet.
Well, that comes with every industry.
You're absolutely right.
More than what they may have. If I got money for some Gap, I might want some Gucci. But don't mean I can get it. One thing that
how hard is it to handle that though? How hard is it to handle when they come in with this checklist, and when you got the checklist, after the checklist is all over, the price tag reads this, and are you guys like any other business when they got, oh come on, you can give me a discount?
I'll lead and I'll let him go into detail, because he's the man with the plan. But really with anything is there's a cost to the business. Everyone has to understand, rather you go to McDonald's, rather you go to the mall, everything that you render costs you money. And that is the reason why things cost more. So, you get your Boost mobile phone, that might be cheaper than the iPhone Max 13, and that's for a reason. There's certain things that come along with the product, the quality, what you're getting. And really, we just get abused because we're at the end of the totem pole. We're the salesman delivering that product, really to help the family through their time of bereavement, but also to understand that, hey, if you want this casket versus this casket, you want to be buried versus cremated, there are different expenses, and that justifies why this will cost you this. But if you're strictly focused on a dollar sign, there are alternative options that fit that. And that does become an issue. No one wants the alternative of what might be the affordability for their budget, but you have to go in there and you kind of have to coach them into understanding what it would take in order to accomplish what they want to accomplish, if that makes any sense. But I'll let him maybe elaborate if he feels the need to.
Well, Tyler, you said that so smooth. You made me want to take the alternative option. You said it so smooth. I was like, man, you're right.
Yeah, easier said than done, But
right.
In a nutshell, that's I get a chance to overview what he has going on. He's really the grunt worker. He really goes in here, and I give him a lot of credit. Because number one, you have to have really the care in your heart, and you have to have the patience to really deal with a lot of people or instances or whatever the case may be. So beyond just going in there and drilling people with sales prices and options and things of that nature, you take the time out to really care about what they're going through and take an understanding to it, but also go in there and really just kind of give them lessons. It might be lessons of life that cause them to be a certain way of how they want to approach a situation, or why they feel they should get X for Y or Y for Z. You really have to go in there and kind of foster to them and really just kind of walk them through and make them feel comfortable with the decisions that you'll ultimately have to make together in order to provide a service.
Okay.
So,
Dad.
Yeah, I just throw my 2 cents, but you'll find out because of the times, you had to adapt. When I first came to Warren, everybody had a job. We're talking about General Motors, Packard, Electric. We're talking about Republic Steel, Copperwell Steel. And so every job had insurance on their employees. So money wasn't a real issue when I first came to town. Once all the jobs left, most people coming in, have what you call And of course, now everybody's budget isn't what it used to be. Just like McDonald's and other industries, we now have what we call packages.
Mm.
You're not fixed to one package. What we do is we give you a package, and it may go from 1,000 all the way up to 10,000. You pick the package that fits your economic budget. So we work with everybody. We actually feel the funeral profession is really our ministry. So otherwise, we're trying to help you in the best way we can. And at the same time, we have to be able to provide a service without going out of business ourselves. I did want to make one note that when you talk about people negotiating funerals, I've noticed that everybody wants to negotiate with the funeral director about his cost, but nobody ever goes to the cemetery and asks them to reduce their prices.
That's a good point. And people might not know that all of these different entities are actually working together, and you just happen to be the face that they're talking to. And as Tyler said, you're just passing along what you are going to either have to take care of as a part of your package or pass on to the family anyway. And I think that that's a big part of when you said ministry, you're not too far away. Obviously, you probably know this, Sterling, from the work that we do as pastors, because you are often only called upon in emergencies. You often have a very short time window to work within, because all these decisions, by the way, have to be made within a few days. I mean, Black folk, it could be 10 days, 14 days, a month before we have the service. But then also, in addition to that, you have to deal with all of the side issues, family issues, people who may not agree on arrangement, trying to put out fires and get people to agree. You know what it's like to call my office and somebody had already set a date or promised a church and the pastor don't know. So how do you manage the personal aspect of it? Because you're right in the thick of people's most desperate and personal times. How do you manage that and try to work around that without exposing yourself to too much or taking too much on yourself?
Well, without sounding corny, I have to give all the glory to God. Otherwise, I pray before I go on to meet with families. I hope that I can use God's will to help them get through what they're going through. And there are special situations. And of course, the lack of money creates issues, as well as having too much money causes issues.
Wow.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that because you have been successful over the years in the funeral home and other endeavors that you have been a part of, because obviously as you make money, if you have wisdom, if you've had a good guide like your father, perhaps the mentorship and advice of others, you learn how to turn your money over and make more money. What do we see in our community as far as wanting people to come up in the world and then how we treat them when they finally get up in the world? And how do you think that might affect the business then?
Yeah, can I comment on that?
Yes, sir.
I think the biggest secret, and I tell this to anybody, whether they're been in business or going into business, is the secret sauce, the secret formula is strictly hard work. If you work hard, if you keep going where others stop, and you start where others haven't, you will see the fruits of your labor and what you put out there. And like I said, watching my dad, seeing him. There's no gimmicks. There's no easy access. It's all labor, brute labor, excessive labor. It takes a lot of energy and effort, but when you put something in, you get something out. And I tell to anybody in business, you take care of business, business will take care of you. And a lot of people getting into business just to say, all right, I got a business, but are they willing to work once they got the business? And a lot of people do it for sometimes, like I have some friends, I talk to them, they do it more so for publicity or the likes. And then when it comes to the behind the scenes work, they stop. And you got to work through it, whether it's advantageous, whether you're going through tough patches, bad spots, you got to work through all that. And I think that, that's the biggest message for, how I've seen him come up, how I intend to come up, and how I'd like to see others in the community be successful. Really just do your work and, have integrity, knowing that what you're doing, and give people a fair shake, a fair deal, and treat others as you want to be treated, and that's ultimately how I see it.
want to add this proverb to counter what he said, and that is, that man stated that if you show me a man that loves his work, I'll show you a man that works hard. He said, if you show me a man that works hard, I'll show you a man that loves his work. So if you don't have passion for what you do, it's going to be hard to maintain and stay successful at it.
Right. Right.
You guys, both in the business that you're in, you have to have a real diversity. I mean, you can get anything from Muslims to, Catholics to, Church of God in Christ, Baptists, whatever, Masons, all type of different things. How do you handle that and still keep, your personal beliefs strong? How does that work for you all?
Well, otherwise, we're there to help people to serve them during their needs, but education is very important. I need to know much about the Muslim religion as I do the Catholic religion, as well as the Baptist religion, the Church of God in Christ religion, the Apostolic religion. I'm firm in my own beliefs, so I don't let that affect what I believe, but I need to understand how they believe so I know how to better serve them.
I love it. I love it. Have you ever run into situations where certain tributes or activities that people wanted to engage in as a part of their final celebrations were just unacceptable to you? And I mean, because we've seen, rap concerts at funerals. I mean, we've seen some people, twerking in front of caskets. Have you ever had to say, I just can't allow this?
I don't, because my job is not to tell you no, it's to tell you how we can make it happen.
Have you had any pastors tell you?
But you have to be willing to pay for that service.
You have to be willing to pay. This twerk is going to cost you.
Bringing the 67 Chevy in, bringing the 67 Chevy in and dropping it into the ground is going to be a little extra.
It's going to cost you. Have you seen, and tell me what you think about some of these staged memorials where they're putting individuals on motorcycles and sitting them up in chairs and all of this? Is that something that is taking off more? Do you see it? Do you get requests like that? Is it just a niche and a few people have done it? I've seen somebody on a tractor. What's your take, if you don't want to offend your colleagues, but do you see something that you might want to emulate and maybe pick up a service that you're not doing? What's your thoughts on some of those more unique things?
Well, again, we get into trends. That's why I say young men have visions, old men dream dreams. There's some things that I don't think I would ever do, but it still exists. I haven't had anybody request that I have them stand up on a motorcycle or sit in a chair or play bingo. However, if they requested that, my job is to see if I can make that happen for them. I remember a trend that nobody thought would ever take off because it seemed like it was too commercial. It commercialized the funeral director too much, and that was drive-through funeral homes.
Huh.
But in Atlanta and Toledo, they ended up, funeral homes started that and ended up being the largest funeral homes in that community. So
wow,
that was over commercialization. It was what people wanted.
Wow. Wow.
I got a question, but before the question, I just want to tell you that if you ever run into one of those funerals where they want to stand up or text me and let me know so I can swing by and watch it.
He wants to see it in person. He wants to see it in person.
Just stop in. The question is, you're regardless of what we think, I know it's a ministry, but it's also a business. And there are other businesses in the same, is there what we call a competition, as far as I don't know if you're gonna say four bodies, but I know that there are different funeral homes around here, and are you guys y'all talk?
Y'all waiting outside the hospital.
I got this body. I mean,
we are ambulance chasers.
You're not ambulance chasers?
No, so that might come to that might not be an advantage to us, but like I said, we like to do things organically. If you like us, you want us, call us. That's usually how we do our business. But obviously there's people in this space that competition that they're hungry. They want to take business by hook or crook. Rather they get it the honest way or the dishonest way. Rather they have different people out here fishing for them, whatever the case may be. We're not predators in the space like that. So maybe that's where we kind of draw the line on how we go about obtaining our business. But there's some real interesting tactics that we've seen that we just have to keep our moral compass together and continue to just do business as usual and do the best we can.
Of course, the most interesting statistic that I've learned through the years is that churches and funeral homes are the most racist institutions.
Huh.
And the only problem with our institution is Italians don't call black funeral homes, they call Italian funeral homes.
Wow.
Catholics go to Catholic funeral homes. Jews go to Jewish funeral homes. We're the only race that will cross over.
Wow.
Black folks will go to a white funeral home, but you'll never see white folks come to a black funeral home.
I haven't seen very few in my lifetime anywhere. And you're right about that. And that goes, as you said, for the church as well. We've made that comment in the past. African Americans will go visit white churches. Very few Caucasians in turn will visit a black church. And it's just a reality. And I do believe in sticking together. Some people, have all types of opinions about what that means. But I appreciate the integrity that you attempt to, and you do walk in. My brother Tony used to say all the time, Sterling, that when you would visit us at Agape, that you had a tape measure in your pocket and you'd be sizing people up as soon as they start coughing or something. And
Well, I've gotten so good I don't need a tape measure.
You don't need.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
He said, "I know your size." I love it.
But I did want to throw out this too, because it was probably the greatest lesson I ever learned. And maybe any black entrepreneur out there may, if they can stumble across the book, it would be a great one to read. But it was called The 4 Cycles of Black Business. Cycle 1 was when you decide you want to go into business and the whole world tells you can't make it. You're a fool for going in it. Get you a job. I don't even know why you're attempting. But if you continue going and you end up in cycle 2, cycle 2 is the cycle that everybody says, all right, this is my man. They want to make sure everybody knows they help make you who you are. Mm-hmm. That's the greatest cycle to be in. But eventually you get into cycle 3, which is everybody says he's too big, he's too rich, we don't want to support him no more. And we're looking for somebody else in cycle 2. And then cycle 4 is that you have to become strong enough and diversify yourself enough that you don't get killed in cycle 3, but you can continue in cycle 4.
Wow.
So diversification, that's why we had to diversify.
So you feel you're in cycle 4?
I'm in cycle, well, I'm trying to get to cycle 4, but I know I've experienced cycle 3.
I believe you have. I believe you have. And, I think it's a good time to segue into the particulars of what it means to serve, as you said, because you do primarily serve the Black community, and the uniqueness of the Black homegoing and Black funeral celebration. Now, Sterling, you and I have been together countless times. I'm kind of sick of you, to be honest, as much as I love you. I love your phone calls and I hate them too, because obviously we hate to be in the situation that we're meeting. But I love the professionalism and the care and concern that I always see your staff put in. And I do appreciate you, alongside so many others that we do end up serving with. But it's inevitable whenever we have funerals at Second and other churches. There are always a few white friends, colleagues, neighbors, former co-workers that show up and are totally blown away by the experience that you often will only find in the Black church. We have the elongated times of viewing, lots of emotion. Depending on if we're trying to have a home going, there could be singing and shouting, and Lord help us with all of our preaching. We basically end up being revivalists by the time we get to the end of many of our sermons. We have certain songs that we just can't seem to let go of. I don't know how many times. If one day my favorite soloist can't sing "My Soul Is Anchored," I just might call you up because I know you know all the words To my
Well, the hot one now is going up to yonder.
going up yonder and take me to the king. A lot of people like take me to the king. So what have you found as a joy? And just give us one thing have you found as a bit of a detriment? And then we have a few audience questions too. What have you found as some of the joys and maybe some of the detriments of the Black funeral style? The celebration of life, as Latalia says it, the homegoing. What have you seen as a good aspect that reflects our culture and maybe not so great all the time?
Well, the difference really to start off is I know no other culture. So when I think of Black people, I think that's normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
My predecessors on the other side handle our service. That's when I understand the real difference. So some of the things we do is like we do have wakes, we do have funerals. Our funerals are much longer than theirs. Otherwise, we sing more songs. The preachers preaches longer than they do. All my Caucasian friends, they're out on the golf course by noon every day.
Wow.
We don't finish funerals till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, right. More like 5, 6 sometimes. It gets heavy.
That's only
if you
when
got a repass, you can get long.
Do they do repasses like us? I've seen like crackers and tuna and
They
cookies.
do not feed you like we do. Now maybe the coronavirus has changed some of that, but there's nothing when you go to their funeral, there's nothing like getting tuna fish on crackers.
Right.
We're actually eating chicken. We're getting macaroni and cheese. We're getting greens, sweet potatoes. We're getting real meals.
Right. Right.
Now, I've said this, and we've talked about this at least 3-4 times on this show. And I just want to ask your opinion. I am starting a petition. I'm going all around Warren to get rid of the 1,000,000 resolutions and the card. And I mean, we can't read every resolution.
All the church resolutions. Be it resolved.
Be it resolved.
Be it resolved.
It's too much. I'm done with it.
Well, it's really a custom. And so, you have to understand why you do what you do. I don't know if people realize this or not, though, but back in the earlier days, the only people that actually were funeral directors were white funeral directors. And they didn't believe in sharing their embalming equipment on Black bodies. Black bodies were never embalmed. But in order to cover the stench of death, you would send flowers. So the flowers would cosmetize the smell. So that's why Black funerals have far more funeral flowers than white funerals. They always give money to donations to charity. We were sending ours to flowers because that had a purpose. The other issue that comes from custom is because they wouldn't embalm us, we were they call their services calling hours. We call ours wakes. The reason being is some of those bodies weren't dead. So they were calling hours. And so that's how it got named wakes.
Wow.
Have you ever had a wake at a wake?
No, that means I didn't do a good job as a funeral director.
I love it. I love it.
Wow.
One of the other particulars that we have honestly covered several times on our show that it's great to have a professional with us is it appears to me at least that our Black communities demand a church service of a local church. And as we're getting further and further away from direct connection or membership with the church, you have to find an auntie or somebody or a preacher you like, often me right now, that would do that church service or open their church. Whereas many of our white contemporaries, my pastor friends, they often just go visit the funeral home for that short funeral, and they don't have to open their church to the same degree. The choirs, the ushers, the staff, the clerk to read the resolutions, the 900 resolutions. Again, does that have to do a lot with space? And historically, the church was the only place to have these services and that there were not funeral home facilities? Or is this just an expectation of Black people that we just seem to feel that there is a special meaning to doing the service in a church?
Well, in some cases, the venue of a church is much larger than a funeral home. We understand it, but some of it is customs in which you're taught. perfect example is nobody wants to get married in any other place but church. But they won't join the church until it's time to get married. They don't come back until it's time to get married.
Right. We have an audience question. The first one I want to ask is from Lady Charlene Dela Cruz. And she asked about a experience she had in Iowa where at the funeral, they did the burial first, and then they went to the church and had the celebration, so that there was no real time restriction or additional hardship when it comes to closing the casket and things like that. Have you ever had any requests like that or done any structured funerals like that? And what do you think of that setup?
Well, it really just depends on the reasons you do it. I've had services where the cemetery requires that you have to be in there at a certain time.
I know about that.
So now you want a 5-hour service, but you got to be in the cemetery by 10 a.m. So you have the service at the cemetery, and then you go back to the church, and you go from 11 to 4.
Wow. A second question we had, and this is a great one about Black business and about working with your vendors. Do you feel you're treated fairly by the businesses that you have to work with, the vendors, the casket companies, or do you feel, or have there historically been inequities or maybe exploitation of Black funeral home directors when it came to these services, working with cemeteries, working with providers who provide your materials?
We have a pretty good reputation with our vendors. The big key is if you pay your bill, they want you to be their customer.
Have you ever had to repo a casket?
That's the hard part. You can't get them back.
Can't get them back.
Wow.
I love it. I love it. Something else we've talked a lot about with this world of funerals. I know your job is to say yes and serve the family. Do you have situations where there might be a danger to what they're requesting, or there are things in a situation where behaviors, or even have you found yourself, we've seen funeral homes where there are, funerals where there are shots being fired at funerals. Do you have protocols for violence, disagreements that become aggressive or physical, family disputes? Do you have a protocol that you follow in order to try to mitigate that, or an emergency plan if somebody runs at the casket or something goes crazy or factions show up? How do you handle that, and have you ever been there?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it's more so, instinct. I guess dealing with your community, dealing with your people, you have different instincts, different connections, different resources that allow you to gauge where everything is as far as turmoil, problems, potential issues or threats that may be evolved around a particular passing. Like you said, even, unfortunately for the tragedy that took place yesterday at the Youngstown Club, you got young lives lost under, reckless violence acts, and issues like that bring a different presence than when Miss May dies and she's 103 years old. The turmoil, the issues, the setback isn't the same, or isn't perceived to be the same. So you have your different problems, different things that, set a risk level or a problematic level that allows you really just to gauge and determine, hey, what should we do in order to maintain the peace, the safety, the calmness? Then a lot of times, as you know, and anyone knows, with family in general, there's always family that get along and there's family that doesn't get along. So you may have issues where family isn't really looking to be together, have to come together for a service, and now they have, history or issues and grudges that they're now expressing in their time of bereavement. And then you have to kind of be the referee, or really the mediator, to help to, intervene in family affair just to get through the service and, have everybody, uphold at least a level of respect or dignity for the aspect or the reason for the season, which is to bury a loved one. And, just keep people composed, at least for some period of time. But it's hard. People are going to do what people want to do. But, if you can try to be there, you can try to catch and gauge things.
Mm-hmm.
We've been, knock on wood, thank the Lord, we haven't had too many extreme cases or incidents. But like I said, that does come with the profession. You got to just be prepared.
But now, we're talking about engaging. We do. Everybody should have a decent and order funeral. But if we realize our main concern, make sure everybody at that funeral is safe, going to be safe. So sometimes we do have security guards there that are not dressed up in uniform, but are there just in case something should erupt. They're there to be able to protect everybody that's there.
Have you ever had to not be able to continue? Have you ever had to just say, this just cannot continue? I know there might be a few infamous cases we're aware of.
I would like to say no, but I have to say yes, we did experience one.
Uh-huh.
It was a case where there was a fight outside in the parking lot. And as a result, it ended up somebody getting hurt. And the people inside the funeral home then wanted to come out and combat the people in the parking lot. And at that point, it was just best to say, hey, let's dismiss this thing and go to the cemetery. There's no way we can regroup and come back in.
Right. Right.
Along those lines of protocol, I think that doing funerals I've done, one of the hardest times is obviously the closing of the casket. And you know, you have mothers and grandmothers and those who are constantly saying no, or don't close, or this can't be. What is your protocol to that? I mean, I know you guys. I've watched you, try to calm them down, and or the pastor comes and try to calm them down. But I know that has to be very difficult. Do you guys have a protocol for that at that point where you're literally, turning that thing and let it down?
Well, we have enough staff members that we're able to secure the area we need to. But that's probably one of the hardest parts of it. The three hardest is the first time you see the body. And so what we try to do is we always try to have a private viewing the day before the funeral so that the sting of death doesn't hit them the day of the service.
Okay.
The second thing we try to do is, you notice the customs change. At one time, you used to view the body at the end of the service and go to the cemetery. But because it's so hard on a family when you close that casket, they now try to close it at the beginning of the service so that something the pastor says or a song that's sang or some comments or reflections that are made will calm them down enough so that they're now able to move on to the cemetery.
I like that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We talked a little bit about the costs, and I want to hit two things before we get out of here. The first thing I wanted to ask is, how has COVID changed or caused you to have to shift besides just, okay, not as many people can come, but has it opened up opportunities or created more difficulties? What has this pandemic maybe even taught you? Any lessons or shifts you're noticing in the industry to approach a situation like we're in right now?
Yeah, I would say that COVID, obviously you got to make the best out of any situation. But I really think that it brought the funeral home into the 21st century in the aspect that it involved technology. It became not a luxury, but almost a necessity to have, online services where we're able to have our services broadcasted where people can watch when they weren't allowed or prohibited to travel and come to the services, still be able to, have involvement and engage in the service and watch it. And I was just surprised because that's something that, you make assumptions. I didn't know or think that anybody would want to watch funerals. I thought that was, morbid in my opinion. But, you'd be surprised if, if I pay attention to, who watches what, when they watch it, people will reflect on videos, funerals a month ago, and I'm saying, wow, like what's, that's something that, a lot of people actually have taken and used to a benefit of their own. But like I said, it has changed everything, but I think it's added some good change. Obviously, there's nothing like congregating at a funeral. Everyone knows that. So that's one thing we do miss and we do enjoy seeing everyone in the community, but we still get a taste of that within reason and safety.
And then, of course, it costs more now to have funerals because you have to take all the precautions. So now we're giving out masks, we're buying equipment to take people's temperature. We're making sure that our staff is protected when they make removals from the hospital, making sure that the building is sanitized before funerals, then you have to sanitize it after they leave the funerals. We're talking about providing social distancing, so that means you now have more people working a funeral than you normally do. But other than that, those are the real changes that had to be made in order to survive Corona.
that brought up because obviously we have interacted on quite a few of these funerals during this season. It's such an emotional time. Our ushers in our church and other staff get a lot of pushback, and it's very highly charged, emotional, sometimes volatile. And you run into these situations where people will not honor social distancing, or will pack a room, a church. We've been there, and we make plea after plea. Sometimes we've been through situations where the police had to, just by way of trying to encourage people that, hey, we're violating orders. Have you found yourself as pretty successful as you could expect to be in getting people to respect what needs to be done in spite of all the emotions?
Up to this point, we haven't had any problems. Everybody's been very courteous about respecting social distancing, and even when we tell them the number of people that are allowed to sit at a funeral, they always have abided by those restrictions.
Glad to hear.
Although my staff is in charge of enforcing that, so it's not like I've turned them loose to do it on their own.
Right.
We have a staff that encourages and makes sure that those rules are followed.
2 quick questions before we close, and I know you got one, Todd.
Yeah, I'll get one at the end.
2 quick questions. First one, real quick: are the gold Cadillacs coming back?
They might be. There's a hint, man. I kept one of them.
You kept. Okay. I wonder where they was at.
One of them. That's our legacy. Now he's 100% business, so he'll purge that in a minute. But it's just sentimental. So I'll keep I'll keep an old newspaper if it have my name in it.
Right.
To make room for tomorrow's paper. You know what I mean? So, I think they could come back, but that would probably be under my leadership. But we're gonna roll with the black. Black's it right now. Yeah,
we were famous for the gold Cadillacs. I was in Kent one time working at a bank, and somebody said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Warren." And they said, "That's the funeral home with the gold Cadillacs." It was a white guy. It was a white guy.
Yeah, well now we know there's some popular demand behind it. We may just encourage and speed that timeline up.
There's a lot going with that.
Second question.
Go ahead.
Second question. Last question I have for you all today is: you get to hear some of the most popular pastors in our area and around preach several funerals. How many of them repeat? How many of them are repetitive? Say no names, bear no blame.
I got 3 good ones, Doc.
Repetitive eulogies. Y'all get a lot of them.
I would say there might be some standard frameworking. Let's put it that way. But in all fairness,
say that again. No. Back up.
He's
standard frameworking. I feel attacked, Tyler.
Nah, I mean, hey.
I need an extra large tithe after that.
Yeah, but it happens,
I love it.
That's all I got.
So we talked about the cost of funerals. We all know that everything comes with a cost, and things like funerals, they're not cheap, never have been, and won't be. We live and have come through the era of GoFundMes and people who are not prepared, because we do not live, as Mr. Williams said, in that insurance era like we did. When young people die untimely deaths, often they don't have life insurance, or people may have cashed it out early and they don't have it. Why is it so important to plan and prepare and maybe pursue pre-needs and pay down or pay on a funeral in advance? Why? And I know you offer these services, so we thank you for being on here and want to promote you a bit. Can you talk about what you offer and why that is so important to implement?
Yeah, and I'll go into that, and I tell people all the time, and like you said at the eulogy, and it wasn't a repeat eulogy, Pastor Todd, but everyone's gonna die.
Right.
And I tell people, you get house insurance because your house may burn down. You get car insurance because your car may wreck. But no one gets life insurance or get a pre-need, but you don't guarantee you're gonna die. So why you chance things, but you won't get the guaranteed things? And like I said, it's really just about education and as well as and acting or behavior. Obviously us, we want to see the best for our people. We want to see them in good positions, So, we give advice based on, what might help somebody in their circumstance. But, a lot of people, they'll believe that, hey, if I'm dead, who cares? But, that's just the burden that falls on someone else's shoulders. So,
Wow.
It's a value if you and your family actively look into the future, look into what will happen down the line, and put some things in place for that.
So what's the best case scenario? Is it just having insurance, or is it making sure? Because one of our questions, Sister Whitby from Second Baptist, love you, Sister Janet. She asked how many people write their obituaries and funeral requests before they pass away. So maybe a ratio. But what's the best case scenario? Everything being planned in advance and knowing exactly what a person wants and perhaps paid for. Is that the best case scenario?
Yeah, that's the best case scenario. But you have to keep in mind is the greatest thing you have to keep in mind is that funerals normally take place within a 7-day period of time. So you got a lot of decisions that are being made. You already have a lot of grief on you, and then it adds further burden when you say, how are we going to pay for all this? The issues that we get into also is that when you have a pre-need, you're getting what you want. So I've had families that had life insurance and the kids cremated them because they wanted the money for themselves.
Wow.
If you're saying, I don't want to be cremated, then you need to specify that, because there's no guarantee, because you have the money, that you're going to actually get buried. The third thing is people don't realize is that inflation, if you prepay your funeral today, whatever that funeral goes up 10, 20 years from now, you're getting it at what you pay today. So if you get a $5,000 funeral, pay for a $5,000 funeral today, that funeral is worth $20,000 20 years from now. You still get that $20,000 funeral that you paid $5,000 for. The third thing that people need to look at is that if you ever think you're ever going to get on Medicaid, that means if you ever go to the nursing home, your assets can't exceed $2,000. Pre-need insurance is the only thing that isn't counted against you when they try to come up with the money figure that you need to qualify.
Wow.
You can have a $20,000 pre-need and still qualify for Medicaid.
Wow. Did not know that. And you offer pre-need services and full funeral planning.
And full funeral plan, that's correct.
We want everybody to know that Sterling Williams Funeral Home offers that service. One of my favorite people, Officer Bear Brown, wants to know, why does it cost more for big people?
Well, that should be an obvious question. That's why they don't sell size 40 suits at 40 suit prices to a guy that needs a size 60 suit.
I feel it.
So caskets are larger, vaults are larger. They even charge you extra for enlarged cemetery plots. Gotcha.
Now, back to Whitby's question, Sister Whitby, question. How many people, like just say percentage wise of your customers in a year, actually do have their pre-needs or their requests, at least even their requests, already written out? Do you get that a lot, or is there a lot of scrambling that might occur?
Believe it or not, I would probably say maybe about 30 people every year actually give me their written out instructions.
Right. Back to the church thing, and we're coming to the end. We're going to bring Big Mike in because we always bring our producer in towards the end. And by the way, we want to thank one of our past guests. I just want to thank this real quick because we got a conversation going on that's very helpful. So we're getting information from you, one of our past guests, Mr. Michael Irvin Walker, who did some talk with us about finance and wisdom, has been giving some advice about what you might want to look into. We have a person asking about children. Insurance is so important. You need to find it somehow and get it for your children, even though it's morbid to think about. It's even worse to have to deal with. And I've been in that situation, obviously, where you have to think about the unspeakable issue of a child, or a younger person losing their life and then not being able to pay for it. But the connection between funerals and the church, especially in the Black community, as we see a greater detachment between the general population and the church, is that creating more tension and stress when people come in and they don't have those connections? And they're maybe scrambling for what used to already exist because they had a connection with a local church and pastor. So now we got to find a speaker, find a minister, because they may not be, connected with anyone, a soloist, a singer, maybe even knowing what's appropriate. we're running into that. Even we talked earlier about things that are out of control, even knowing what's protocol. Are you finding that increasing as we have sort of a more secular, even Black community? Do you see that happening more?
I do. Although because I'm a full service funeral home, we help them find ministers and organists, make it all work for them. But we're finding out that we're helping more people now than we ever did before.
Wow. Speaking of your ministers, do you have a platinum package minister, a gold package?
Well, you said one that uses the same eulogy over and over, minister.
with the typical framework, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, you're a top tier guy. You know that. So
well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where I fall on the package list. I've never seen the documentation. So, do you ever have people who are asked not to, or complaints, or criticisms of ministers or other presenters that you cannot go back in that direction again?
You talking about before funeral or after funeral?
After it's over, the review, the Yelp review after it's over.
The Yelp review.
It doesn't happen a lot, but I have had some.
You had some.
You know what? Yeah, we had some, and I'll tell you, it's like sometimes being a pastor is like being an artist or musician. Some songs that might be great to you might not be great to someone else. You know, it's the same song. And I had an instance where it was funny because I knew the pastor really well, and he stepped up to the plate for a family, and he gave a sermon, and you know, the family was ranting. Some family were ranting and raving about it, and one of the males of the family wasn't thrilled about it. So they got to an argument on if it was good or wasn't good. So. You know, I don't know if they got the message or not, you know, but they at least knew about it.
I love it. I love it. You guys have provided so much amazing information. I mean, I have. Is there anything else you want us to know? Anything that you feel like would be good for the public to know about final arrangements, preparing for a passing of a loved ones, things they should be aware of?
I'll make a comment. I'll leave the floor to him as well. But you know, a lot of it is really just you know, hopefully as a community, you know, we look at supporting our community. You know, we want to see our area, our immediate area, our churches, our businesses. You know, obviously we're speaking funeral homes. Our funeral homes do well, look well. You know, we'll support each other. We'll cycle and we'll build our own economy, and we'll have nice things. We'll be able to support each other. And like I said, we don't just say that just because, you know, it's business, but we feel as though we really are the best for our community because we understand the community. We know what we want. And I tell people it's like going to a barber shop. Yeah, you can go to Great Clips and get you a lineup, but it ain't gonna be the same lineup you get, you know, down in the neighborhood. You know, you get a cut, but it ain't the same cut. And that's the same way with body presentation. You know, that's our lane. You know, we understand it, we live it, we do it, and you know, without, you know, tooting our horn, you know, just based on the compliments that we receive. You know, a lot of people will tell us the body presentation, the service is tailored and brought to them in a way that you're not going to get, you know, at another demographic, you know, another location, you know, and you know, we just want to, you know, make sure people get the service or the quality service that we feel as though they should get. And, you know, we would love to say that's us.
I love it.
Plus, we would like to add the other 2 cents. We're talking about economic development and Black Lives Matter. But when you call a Black funeral home, 60% of all our revenue goes back to Black people. When you call another funeral home, 0 goes back to the Black community.
Wow. That's a lot more than 2 cents. That's like 4 cents.
Absolutely. Y'all definitely got my business. I ain't planning on dying no time soon, but y'all got my business.
Well, can I do one of them? If you start coming to America too, can I do that funeral James Earl Jones did when he got to watch his own funeral?
Yeah, you can do that.
You can do that.
You know what? I'd rather just hear Ben sing "My Soul Is Anchored" myself.
There's a fee, but yes, we can provide that for you.
Just
he said for a fee.
And you can even let me know what entertainers you want to be there.
Listen, we'll talk to Terrell about that. We did have one more question. I think it was good. Is it possible to include a pastor in the pre-needs discussion?
Yes, most of them do.
Most clients do. Okay.
Yes.
Appreciate it. I'm glad that we had that question. Go ahead,
One
Jeff.
last thing I want to ask. I've heard, or I've got comments from a couple people that you do their taxes, Sterling. Is that a business, or is that just something you do for certain people?
Well, that's a business, but they say there's only two things people can do in life, and that's die and pay tax.
So you got both. I love it. I love it. Big Mike, come on in. We appreciate Sterling Williams, Tyler Williams, everybody in Religiously Incorrect Land. Let's give it up for them right quick. They are the consummate professionals. They're two of my favorite people. They know how much I appreciate them. And I think all of the pastors and the families that they have served over so many years appreciate them and what they do and the legacy they carry. Big Mike is in the house with his super 4K camera and professional mic set up that the rest of us don't have. What's happening, Big Mike, on the Breakfast Club?
Hey, great show, great show. It's such an honor to have you guys on. Sterling, I've always looked up to you, man. Always looked up to you since I was little. So great to have you on the show. Tyler, you almost didn't have that spot, bro, because I was in line, man. I was in line. Yeah, I was in line to take that spot. Then, graduated high school, got a little wild and things happened and lost focus. But that's another story. But yeah, congratulations, man, on your business, your longevity, all of that, man. All of that. Really proud of you guys. Love you guys. Stand up, people. Stand up, people.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, Todd left us. Not sure what happened to him. But yeah, we will keep it going here. I have a question for Tyler. Since you are the future of the business,
My bad.
where do you see the funeral business going? Not so much business wise, but cultural wise. Do you think it'll shift culturally, or like the way services are held? The traditions that we do now, will they be there later? Do you see that switching and changing up?
I do, and I think obviously we all see a change in theme, with the funeral home as well as the churches. And like I said, I see, especially in my dad's era, there's a different level of mentality, upbringing, different characteristics, and even, plain and simple, even dress code. There's guys that can barely walk, but they'll have a 3-piece suit on, and guys my age, you might be lucky to catch them in their basketball warm-ups.
Right.
And it's casual now, it's just, I'm starting to think, the suit game may end up retiring because most people that see as services, most of them don't go that route. So, a less formal event, if I were to make a speculative approach on what I think I would see 40 years from now when hearses are flying,
Right.
Them RIP t-shirts ain't going nowhere, I tell you.
No, they're not going nowhere. They have QR codes and stuff, and they'll be doing stuff on this t-shirt.
Right. Now the reason I asked that question, a friend of mine passed early last year, and we went to the funeral, and I noticed that all the younger people were antsy. They kept getting up, walking out. It's like through the whole service, like before everybody would sit down and wait till it was over. Now, like the younger people, they're on their phones. They're not paying attention. Preachers preaching, they could care less. They walking out. So that's why I asked you that question, where you think it's headed. So.
Yeah, and I think, the comment on that really, I think we're starting to develop a little, ADHD or, just this overstimulation.
Right.
Oh, the phone is the worst thing, and I ain't even I'm guilty of that myself. You just won't let yourself sit a dull moment. You'll pull your phone out and scan through Facebook, press the news feed. Just it is hard to sit in, like, if you can't sit in class for an hour or two, you don't want to sit in church if you got that option.
Right.
A lot of guys, you're right. They're putting some real traffic on that church carpet.
No doubt. Yeah. Okay. That's all that I have. Todd, let's hit that ad real quick, man, before we close out.
Yeah, we want to thank the Phillips Care family of businesses for supporting us. Again, we talked about Phillips Care Lawn Services. We talked about Phillips Care Cleaning. We want to make sure you also know that our man Mike Phillips, you all know Mike Phillips. He's the man that has been doing the work. He will kill you down at Perkins Park. He is the owner of Phillips Care Training, who are the proud new owners of High Street Fitness, the 277 South High Street in Cortland. They're running specials for every season. We know you need to get that summer body right. It's already hot. So get your beach body right with Phillips Care Fitness. You can call them at 330-984-7632 and make sure you ask for Mike and he'll take care of you. Again, we're thanking the Phillips Care family of businesses, Phillips Care Training, Phillips Care Lawn Service, and Phillips Care Cleaning for being our proud sponsors. And we are always welcoming and opening up other sponsorship opportunities if local businesses so would love to commercialize here. I would like to add to my man, Mr. Williams, speaking of familiar frameworks, I think I just about have your post-service speech down to a T. From your favorite scripture.
Yes.
As the scripture says, if you can endure the weeping of the night, the joy will come in the morning. Which I don't even preach anymore because I know you're going to say it. So you always claiming, I'm about to call you out now, that if the deceased is a Browns fan, you and them are the only people who thought they might win the Super Bowl.
That's correct, because you have to keep in mind is, and I'm telling you my age, but I was at the last championship game.
You at the last? Well, how old are you? About 200 years old?
That was in 1964 when the Browns.
Not what we gonna do.
Baltimore Colts.
We're not going to go in on the Browns fans, and you know we're about to win the Super Bowl this year.
Hey, well, he'll have that line ready for you too in 30 years.
Well, I want you to know, there's not a whole lot of diehard Browns fans now. You have to keep in mind.
I'm one of them.
They went from the Browns to the Steelers to the Cowboys. Everybody wants to support a winner, but I've supported the Browns through thick and thin.
Well, I got one more. I got one more commenter. Michael Walker, this concludes this part of the service. That's almost as bad as an in my clothes.
Yes, but you have to keep in mind is every service somehow I always hear you say ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
It's got to come out one way or another. Okay, so
there's some phrases that just can't be changed.
You told my father once when he did one of his first funerals, and he got to the cemetery and did not know what to say. He tells me all the time. And you told him, doesn't matter what you say, as long as you say ashes to ashes and dust to dust, that's all they want to hear that you said. So many of you don't know this because I've taken many a ride and had enjoyable conversations with Mr. Williams. And Mr. Williams, Mr. Sterling, always has a good joke. I would like you to take us out with one of your favorite jokes because you've given us some good ones.
I'm going to pass the joke telling to my son.
Have you ever heard me? I don't tell jokes. He's the jokester. But you know, I can't say. I guess ashes to ashes, dust to dust. That's my joke.
Well, if you want me to close out a joke, since we're talking about it, well, I'll give you a funeral joke. But there was a man that was at the cemetery, and he was just boo-hooing and boo-hooing. The funeral director saw him there, and he said, well, maybe I can console him. He went over there, and all the man was saying, why you have to die? Why you have to die? And the guy said, well, who is this person that died? The guy said, oh, why you have to die? He said, well, was it your mother? He said, no. He said, why you have to die? Why you have to die? He said, was it your children? He said, no, why you have to die? Why you have to die? He said, was it your wife? He said, no, why you have to die? He said, who was it? He said, it was my wife's first husband.
That's a good joke. We appreciate y'all. We really
Thank
do.
you so much.
I'm going to say this. Sterling is our in town. I know we have another funeral home that also services us from Alliance, and we have in Youngstown. But I'll just say this, support Black funeral homes and support the people that support you. And that's something I've always looked at because Sterling supports us. So I am always proud to support Sterling and Tyler and the Williams family wherever I can. And that is no shade to anybody else, because I have just as much pride in many of our other Black businesses, including funeral homes. But we just have special affection because of our relationship. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having favorite people in your life. And you guys are one of that. So thank you all so much. Jeff, any last words?
Just awesome, man. Appreciate you guys coming on, taking the time out of your busy schedules. Thank you so much for enlightening us on all that you've talked about tonight. We really appreciate you, man. God bless.
All right.
Thank you for
having us. It was our privilege.
Hey, if you guys could just hang tight backstage. I want to talk to you real quick before you go. I'll be brief, I promise.
You want to get his preemies together. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for joining us. Don't forget to like us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, follow us on YouTube. Look out for our audio show to show up wherever you listen to your podcast. And go to religiouslyincorrectpodcast.com. Get your religiously incorrect gear, like this fly hoodie I wear everywhere I go. I got mugs in the office. We can hook you up and have you looking good. Until next time, you all have a great week. Peace out.
Peace, y'all. See you next week.